Hey, today we are going to discuss about the image widget. So the image widget, as its name implies, is going to display an image in our page. Okay, so as simple as that. So we have two constructors. The common constructors that we have is we have the image that asset and the image that network. Okay, so what's the difference between the two constructors? So first, the image that asset creates a widget that displays an image stream obtained from an asset. Okay, so there is this thing that we call as asset in our Flutter applications, and when you say assets, this could be an image, an audio, or video files. Okay, so if ever that you want to display an image from an asset, so we're going to use the constructor of this one, image that asset. And if ever we are to display an image from the network or from the internet, as you could see here, URL, so we are going to use image.network. Okay, so but before we're going to have the image.asset, so what are we going to do first? Now, before we could use our image.asset constructor. So the very first thing that we're going to do is to create an asset folder into our folder. Okay, so as you can see here, we have here our file structure. Then what we're going to do is we are going to create here an asset folder which is going to contain the images that we're going to use with our files, with our app, I mean. Okay, so first is here on top, on the top level, on the same level with our lib folder, we are going to create here a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it assets. Okay, actually you could use any name with this folder. Okay, but I'm just going to call it assets for the purpose of discussion. Okay, so then inside my assets folder, I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to name it images. Okay, so actually inside our images, we could create, or we could copy then our files, our image files. Then we could create also a folder for our audio files, but now we're just going to use our image folder. Okay, so I have prepared here okay, so I have here an image name. I name it bike.jpg. I downloaded it from the internet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this file, then I'm going to put it inside our assets. Okay, so this is now the folder I created with VS Code, so it reflected now in my file explorer. So I'm going to have the assets, then images, then I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to have bike.jpg to be displayed here. Okay, okay, so if we are going to go back to our VS Code, okay, from the assets folder under the images, so we could see here now our bike.jpg. Okay, so we could see it here. This is now the whole image, the full image. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do here now is we are going to tell Flutter that we are going to use the assets folder for our images. So how are we going to do that? So go to our pubspec.yaml. Okay, so on the pubspec now, so we have here the settings, the dependencies with Flutter. But as of now, we are just going to have our assets. We are going to tell Flutter that we are going to use the assets folder. So go to, or you're going to search for the assets section. So we have here the assets section. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to actually uncomment these lines here, and okay, we have here the assets section. Okay, then under our assets, we could have here then the folders or the files that we're going to use for our application. Okay, so we are just going to specify here the path, which is assets slash images slash bike.jpg. Okay, so I'm just going to comment out this one here. Okay, this means Flutter now knows that we have here an asset named bike.jpg. Okay, but if ever we're going to use other files from same folder, so what you're going to, for example, we are going to have an apple.jpg. So we're going to have here apple.jpg. Okay, but but if ever you want to use all of the files inside the images folder, so what we're going to do here is just delete the name of the file, then leave the folder as it is, and Flutter then knows that we are going to use, or we intend to use, all of the files inside the images folder. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do here is to save, and as you can see here, it is going to update the dependencies from the pubspec.yaml. Okay, so take note, all of the settings, we are going to put it here in our pubspec.yaml file. Okay, so automatically when we save this file, we don't need to issue the Flutter pub-get, okay, because it's going to be automatically run by Flutter. Okay, so Flutter now knows where are our asset files. Okay, so using now our example here, so I'm going to have, I want to display it on our body. Okay, so in our previous videos, we have the up bar, the bottom navigation bar, floating, and the drawer. So we're going to have now our body, in which our body will contain, as of now, only a single widget, which is our image. So I'm going to have here image.asset. So as you can see here, we have an asset here. Then the name. The name there is actually the path. Assets slash images slash bike.jpg. Okay, so save, then reload. Oops, we're going to go to our terminal, then reload. Okay, so as you can see, we have here now the image for the bike. Okay, so with our image, we could actually change the size of the image that we have here. So for example, I'm going to have the width. Okay, so we could change the width. Let us say I'm going to have here 200, then the height 300. Okay, comma, save, then reload. Okay, so as you can see, we have now changed the image size. Okay, so there are a lot of properties that we could play with the image.asset or the image widget, not only with the asset but also with our the network constructor. Okay, so first is we're going to have, okay, so we have here the color. Okay, so I'm just going to have here colors that, okay, let's say red. Okay, so the color is blended with each image pixel using this color. Okay, so when I click on save, then reload, so as you can see, it just actually covers our image with red. Okay, it is because with our color, we are going to use color blender. Okay, so we're going to have here color blend mode, okay, so then we have the blend mode, let us say color burn. Okay, then save, then reload. Okay, so we have it there. So you could play actually with the different values of the blend mode. Let's say that dodge. Okay, we have it there. So you could have combination of colors from our color property and the color blend mode. Okay, so it's up to you how you to do that. So you're just going to use then your creativity on blending those colors to make it more artistic compared with the original image. Okay, or maybe you could just leave it as it is. Okay, so next one here is we have the fit property. Okay, this is another important property, the fit property. So what is a fit property? Fit is how to inscribe the image into the space located during layout. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, so that you could actually see the difference with the fit, the different values of fit, I'm going to wrap my image into a container. Okay, so if ever you don't know what a container is, so never mind, we are going to have a separate discussion for the container widget. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use the container widget so that we could see the difference of the fit property, of the different values of the fit property. Okay, so I'm just going to do a shortcut here. I'm going to wrap it with a container. Okay, then I'm going to change the size. I'm going to have the size in my container. Then in my container, I'm going to have a color so that we could see it well. Colors that, let us say, green. Okay, then save. Oh no, I have an error. Okay, I'm just going to leave the fit as blank as of now, the fit property. So reload. Okay, so the green thing here, the green box here is actually my container. Okay, and the height is, we have 300, then 200. As you can see, the image is actually positioned at the center of the container. Okay, so this is actually the default fit of our image. Okay, so it is actually contained. So I'm just going to show you here now fit. Okay, so we have here the class box fit. Okay, so as you can see here, box fit dot contain. So contain, if I'm going to point my mouse pointer here, is we have this format. Okay, and as I've said, this is the default fit of our image. So as you can see, even if ever I'm going to save this one, then reload. Okay, nothing has changed with my image. But let us say we are going to have that cover. Okay, so cover small as possible while still covering the entire target box. Okay, so meaning it is going to cover our entire box here. So I'm going to save, then reload. So as you could see, the image occupies the whole box. Okay, so but then nothing has changed on the aspect ratio of our image. Okay, that's the box fit that cover. So we have, then we have the fill. Okay, the fill fit. So save. Then by the way, what's the definition of fill? So if here, fills the target box by distorting the source aspect ratio. Okay, so as you can see here, the aspect ratio has been modified so that the whole image is going to fit in our box. Okay, so I'm going to reload. As you can see here, the whole image is now contained within our container. Okay, so that's the difference of the different values for our fit, and we are going to use them depending on our on the requirements that we have. Okay, so I'm going to use now here the network constructor. Okay, so again, the network constructor is going to be used when we are going to have an image from the network or from the URL. Okay, so I have prepared here a URL, a sample URL from Flutter that we could use. It is actually a GIF, so therefore it is animated. Okay, so I'm going to have here, instead we're going to have it from the assets, so I'm going to have here this one, dash fainting GIF from the internet. Okay, so save, then reload. So we have here our image. So I'm just going to use here the contain, the default fit. Okay, so that would look better. Okay, so we have here the by the way, I'm just going to remove my colors. Save, reload. This is now our original GIF image from the internet. Okay, so how are we going to center this? How are we going to position our image? We are going to have that in our next video. Okay, so I'm just going to edit, for example, here in my drawers. As you can see, we used here only an icon. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this one with our bike.jpg. Okay, so that is from the up bar. Then we have here, no, it's not the up bar, it's the drawer. Okay, so we have the drawer here. Then we have the header, which contains, we have an icon. Okay, icon of home icon. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove my icon. Then I'm going to change it Image.asset. Then we're going to have assets slash images slash bike.jpg. Okay, save. Okay, let us try. Reload. So you could see here now our image. Okay. Now, if ever you want this one to be a bit circular, okay, we could actually wrap then our image into other widgets. So take note, what I want to do here is I'm going to make here a bit circular. So we are going to modify our border radius. Okay, so actually we could use also a container, but then what I'm going to use now is I'm going to use another widget named clip rec. Okay, so I'm going to wrap. By the way, the shortcut here is just to click on this line here. Then we are going to have here the bulb. Now click, then wrap with whatever widget that you want. Okay. Okay, what I want is I'm going to wrap it with, since the clip rec is not here, so therefore I'm going to use wrap with widget, then click, so you can see here widget. So I'm going to use clip rec. Okay, then we have here our child. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the border radius of the clip rec. Okay, let us say border radius directional, then that circular. Then for the radius, I'm going to have, let's try 50. Okay, then reload. So you have it there. Okay, so I'm just going to try to increment my number here, and save, then reload. Okay. Okay. Anyway, there are still other ways of how are you going to create or modify the shape of our image. If you want a full, let us say a perfect circle, we also have our avatar widget, or later on we're going to have those. As of now, I'm just going to have here the clip rect widget. Okay, but anyway, our main topic for this video is actually for the image. Okay, so we have now our image in our body, and we also used the image into our avatar. Okay, so more widgets will be coming in our next video, in which our topic then would be Flutter layouts. We are going to discuss in our next videos the widgets that we are going to use in our layout. Okay, so that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next video.